Hello.
What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to this week's In Review
For the Emperor.
So, this week, what's up, Ben?
What's up?
This week we are talking about the very popular,
The hip, the new, the hot.
Space Marine 2. Which is a 40K Warhammer game that just came out. We're gonna be talking about the game, but like by proxy, you can't not talk about 40K in general.
Yeah, and I also think that we should probably touch a little bit on the video game industry because I think that this game was enough of a revitalization to sort of.
Yeah. So actually, right before we just started broadcasting, literally like a half hour ago, I played for about like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
On John's computer, which ran it very smoothly, and
Except for the beginning, there was a few hiccups, but I think that was because we were trying to record it.
We're not talking about it. We're gonna have like background footage of
Oh, that was me. My fault.
oh no, Christmas is ruined. Where's this guy?
All right,
There's that guy.
I should take this off my lap, shouldn't I? Because it's a little too. There we go.
It's getting warm.
Loosen up the wires. Yeah, I don't want to bake the balls.
Gotta bake the potatoes, man. Yeah. So we were gonna have background footage of the gameplay itself, but eventually we're just like, just screw it. Well, why try to fix what ain't broken? So we're just chilling and having this up here, and we're doing it this way. Fuck it, we're doing it live. And so I really got a kick out of it. The gameplay was very good. The graphics look phenomenal. I'm really impressed with everything from like the water physics and the character models. There's cutscenes and then there's like cinematic cutscenes.
Yes.
And the cinematic cutscenes, absolute dude, A+. But and then like the regular cutscenes where it's like the gameplay graphics, where you can kind of tell they lay off the shader complexity on like the characters' faces and stuff, which is not a huge loss. Like you can see like the hairs in his head are like as thick as your pinky, but then you also got to think these guys are like fucking 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
So it looks good. It plays well, and I played it on easy.
Yeah.
John was kind enough to put it on easy mode for me, so I wasn't like, because like I really wanted to just kind of breeze through as much of it as I could without I did die once, but there's parts where like you got to use your environment and the things around you, and I'm a keyboard and mouse player. I'm a hardcore keyboard and mouse player. When I transitioned from console, this is around when like the Xbox One first came out, and I was gonna get that, but then all my friends at the time had pretty much said, "Dude, PC is the way to go. Like, better graphics, 60 frames," and now I can't go back. And it took some getting used to playing keyboard and mouse, and I think it was one of the times I was here, I played Halo on the Xbox. And I was just like, my thumbs don't. Yeah, I was like, I'm playing terrible. And then like you're trying to look with the right thumbstick, and the camera's just going. And I'm like, this is so slow. Where like keyboard and mouse is just like snap, boom.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's sort of ironic because I'm the complete opposite. I literally I got a Bluetooth Xbox controller so that I could actually play with a controller on my computer. Go figure. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like, but I don't care because it's just the way that I know how to do things, and it's fast. For me, it's faster, and my hands don't bend that way. Like, you're supposed to hit like E, F, and Q, and spacebar, and like.
Yeah, so that's what got. So normally I'm used there's when it comes to PC gaming, the general rule of thumb is you got WASD.
Yeah.
forward, left, back, right, and then you have your pinky for shift, and then thumb for spacebar. So it's once you get that down, it's like that's generally like almost every video game on PC.
Once they start like adding buttons that spread out across the keyboard,
Yeah.
it starts losing me. Especially, but there was a game that I was playing, and I think it was an RPG, and there was something along the lines of like it just started. It was way past half the keyboard, and I'm like trying to remember like which one's my inventory because it's not freaking I.
Yeah. There's I think
I forget what game that
World
was.
of Warcraft. I had hit. I think it was like B for your bags.
Yeah.
And then I was, I think, for like if you wanted to queue up for like PvP or something.
Yes, that used to throw me off all the time.
Star Citizen is like that, where it's like, oh, you got a party invitation. Hit left bracket or right bracket to accept or deny.
No.
And then like that like because Star Citizen is one of those things where you have almost like half the keyboard, literally half the buttons on there, do something.
Yes,
and
yeah, it's too much for me.
It's a lot, but you can keybind things and you can change it to where you're like comfortable. Like I've played it enough where I don't have to change anything, and I get like because I played it for so long that it was just like it's to me when it comes to like space combat, it's one of the best space simulators.
Now your typical like go-to is Halo Infinite.
Yes, when it comes to like first like FPS, yeah.
I know you play a little Call of Duty here and there. Did you ever play Gears of War?
I did on console.
Okay.
A long time ago.
Okay.
Like on the Xbox 360.
So I made the reference that I think that this is sort of a revitalization of the gaming industry. I think if this isn't a red flag for people to like, for developers and programmers to go like, hey, this is working.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to take to get through their thick skulls.
Money.
Well, yeah, you would think, but I don't want to get into that. If you notice, one of the things that like if you're on the review world like I do, what games is this game Space Marine 2 being compared to? Nothing modern. Nothing. They're like it's Gears of War.
Yeah.
It's Halo. It's what was the other big one that they're the most recent modern one would be Helldivers 2.
Okay.
And I personally believe that it took the sort of skin and bones of Helldivers 2, and I think it did a better job of it.
I never played Helldivers.
I haven't actually like played it. I've watched enough of it to get a feel of like what the game's about, and it's sort of mission based. You drop down, and then you have like a directive that you have to take care of, and then it's an extraction shooter, so you have to do this thing in a certain amount of time period, and you're getting swarmed like the whole time. I feel like, granted, in Helldivers 2, you're supposed to be operating as a team. It's sort of like loosely squad based. Like there's actual benefits that if you work together, reloading and different stuff like that. I think that's one of the biggest problems with most modern shooters is the fact that it's all about the glory of the single player while you're running around in multiplayer.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's good for esports. But that's not good for games.
Yeah.
Personally.
One of the best co-op games I played, and it's funny because like the title kind of says it all for it, but I had a lot of fun playing with friends with it, was Army of Two.
Army of Two, and I think
that was a fun one.
Granted, there isn't as like direct. I loved Army of Two, but there isn't as direct of like mechanics like Army of Two was, like the hoisting up the walls and synchronized shooting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Although, if you're playing in a multiplayer facet of Space Marine 2, you will link up with a partner as you guys are like executing. It's happening a lot if you're watching on there, and there's a lot of assists where I don't know if you noticed that while you were playing. Like, even though they were bots, if you got a a warrior to execution and then turned and started going after other fodder, your teammate would execute him if he was closer. So there is that sort of level. So it's sort of like
Okay.
Army of Three, kind of.
I did notice a couple times that like the two bots that were on my team, which for anybody who is familiar with the campaign, I got up to the part where we rescue.
You got midway through Ivan. You rescue Ivan. Midway through this first, you played through the whole prologue, and then midway through the first mission.
Yeah. And
you were just about to get to the aerial cannons.
Yes. Yeah, because right when they were saying, all right, let's go get those cannons, and I was like, it's almost 8 o'clock. We should. But it's good. I really enjoy. It's very rare nowadays that I get heavily invested in into a campaign of a game. Like, I haven't even finished Halo Infinite's campaign yet because
That's
I'm
amazing.
like,
I can't believe you.
I know, because I'm such I love PvP. I love that player versus player. Like even when I played Star Wars: Old Republic or Elder Scrolls Online, like I something about just like going up against other players is just, it's fun. Like, to me, like, yeah, that's like the end game, but if I have the option to bypass a campaign and just do
I don't want to be
online.
I don't want to be that guy. I am more of a PvE player. I think I said that the last time.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
I'm more of a PvE player. I personally prefer to deal on my own missions. I don't like relying on people. Bots are cool because they do exactly what they're programmed to do, and there's just so many times where, and I'm not knocking on people, but when you get into a mission and they want to putz around and they want to go off on their own and they want to, and it's like, no, we're squad based. We're supposed to be working together, help out. And that's the thing that frustrates. And I'm so easily frustrated that it's just like, nah,
there's a lot of that. Like, I play a lot of online games and multiplayer, and there's times when other players are like, you're not going for the objective. Like, this is why we're losing.
Yeah. I will say, and we'll keep it in the 40K realm, it is something I've noticed with 40K players. Now, when I'm talking about multiplayer, I'm talking about typically most first-person shooter multiplayers. I find that people don't work together in pairs very well.
No.
But Darktide, which is a sort of not Halo, like a Destiny style. Same thing where you drop in, you have a direct thing that you have to go handle, you got to unprogram this and then do this and da-da-da-da, and you're fighting these zombies in situations. The groups in Darktide are very tight. It was one of the few multiplayer games where it's strictly multiplayer that I really enjoyed because everybody helped out. Because you got punished if you separated.
Yeah.
So I noticed that when I was playing Space Marine 2 and their operations, that if you start trailing off, you will get swarmed. And again, it makes sense if you play the tabletop game. If you play the tabletop game and you have a group, we'll say a squad of 5, it's actually it's a mechanic in the tabletop game that if one of your units is outside of 2 inches within 1 turn, it dies.
Oh, okay.
So it makes sense why, even in their video games, you get punished if you separate too far.
Yeah. Even there's this one game mode that I play a lot recently on Call of Duty, which is called DMZ.
Okay.
Which is kind of like Warzone. You and a bunch of a ton of other players get dropped into random spots on the map, and you gotta loot and get gear and this and that, and the objective is to extract, but you're fighting against all these other bots, but also other players.
Okay.
And if you guys you guys can separate and you search that house for loot, I'll check this one, and then you can do missions within the map itself. But if you guys separate and you go too far apart and you run across another team, or you get a swarm of bots, because if you run into one group of bots, the game will send another swarm after you. Like they'll drop in a helicopter and send off another group, and you can get overpowered really easily. So I like that aspect of online games where it's like it's a co-op. It's you're working with a team. But I mean, I've had times when I group up with someone in that game and then they just fuck off and do their own thing.
Yeah, that's really one of the problems. And I was going to say, like, one of the biggest one of the notorious ones for that is Destiny 2. I can't tell you how many times that like I'm on like a boss fight, and one of the players who's high ranked, who can literally just run the instance by himself, he's miles away from us.
Yeah.
And I'm with like a noob who's like level 19, and I'm like I split the difference at like 40, and I'm just like watching this guy's name get smaller and smaller and smaller, and I'm like, all of a sudden we port to the end, and it's like, I could have used all that experience back there. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like I kind of needed that. And all those drops, because it's a looter shooter, so that's what you're supposed to be doing. But people just have their way of playing, and it doesn't always help. But I'm not here to complain about that stuff.
I think online is like, it's good for when you're like playing with friends, and like like say if like me and you were like chatting through Discord and we're playing Halo or like whatever. Like I think it's better when you have a direct line of communication with your friends that you're playing with. Like it's the same concept of like when you used to do split screen when you were a kid.
Oh yeah.
But that way you could be like, hold on, reloading, hold on, cover me, and you can kind of get to the objective easier.
Sort of additional squad tactics.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in. I was playing Star Wars: Old Republic recently, and they just started up the Dark versus Light event, which is a fun one. It's like only the second time they've done it, and the game's been out since 2011. And so that like this event, I'm like, yes, they brought it back, and they get like it's like dark side versus light side, and depending on like your alignment with the Force, like it's cool. So there are these things that you got to do, these missions, like to get farther into this season of Dark versus Light, you got to do this one thing, this, that, and the other. One of the things was like you had to defeat like a world boss kind of character. They're like, but these ones are like beyond world bosses. Like you need huge. And I was playing, and there was this one group of like, I think an ops group, I think goes up to 36 or something like that. But yeah, like 20 something people come over this hill. Like I put in global chat like on this planet. I'm like, hey, it was me and Raven. I was like, hey, me and one other person are here at I forget the name of the boss, but like, we're here if anybody's around. Like someone in chat whispered to me, they're like, we're on our way. And I just see this over the hill, like the cavalry ride. Everybody's on their speeders and their mounts and all this stuff. Fucking huge wave of people. And they all had the same guild name. So they were all definitely on Discord, just like, hey guys, we're gonna go do this real quick. You feel like taking down a world boss? Yeah, why not? Like, and
just timed it perfectly.
Oh my god, it was like out of a movie.
That's cool. So let me get your original proposition for us doing this was you were going to watch me play, and I kind of felt as though I spoke about it last week, a little bit, because I beat the game 2 weeks ago at this point.
Yeah, you did mention that.
So I've kind of felt like there wouldn't be as much discourse about the game if you didn't get a solid feel for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like for you to appreciate the game, you really gotta feel it.
That was a good call. I agree with that. I got a feel for it, man, and I gotta say, I think my favorite is the executions.
Yeah, man.
Or when you parry something and then like
you feel powerful.
Yeah, I like I think I mentioned at one point while I was doing it, like I got this huge, like this really cool execution kill, and I was just like I'm for the sake of YouTube and keeping this PG-13, but I was just like, my D feels so big right now. And I'm just like mowing down through these like Tyranids or what are they called? Tyranids? Tyranids. And very cool models on their characters, because like there were times when like I would stop and I would look, and the detail on their characters looked really cool. And I also wanted to. I'm glad I brought this up because I made a mental note. Victoria, hello, how are you? I made a mental note that like when a character like one of the Tyranids that like you just like mowed down, their body was like on a like say like that like this is the ground and this is a ledge and this drops down. The body was like on top of it, but it was like an arm was like flopped over the edge. And like in a lot of games, I notice like if there's a moment where like the surface area is like uneven, the body will just stay flat. Like it's like, okay, this is the animation of the body falling, and they just lay flat like that. And then if it's on a ramp or a hill or something, they're just like kind of defying gravity, where here there was none of that.
Very immersive.
And
yes.
I was like, and I remember like, that's good. And then the water physics I was really impressed with that. It was pretty thick, but it was a thick water with 2 C's, but it
you'd have to use your whole mouth for it.
Yeah. We're adults, we swear. But yeah, it was really immersive. I love that they had that kind of like mechanic into the gameplay itself. It was that much more immersive. And I also loved how like, because you can dodge if they have the red bit, and then you dodge their heavy attack, but you can't do that if you're being swarmed.
Right.
And it makes so much sense, because like there's all these other things around you that are trying to fucking, get at you. And it's there's times when like I'm just like oh, I can't move. Oh god damn. And so I have to like, oh man, it was fun.
So that's another little hidden tidbit from the tabletop. If you're what they call base to base, so the base of one of your models is up against the base of one of my models, you can't fall back because you're engaged. You're supposed to be swinging at each other.
Yeah.
So in Space Marine, they included that as if you're surrounded, you can't fall back.
Yeah.
You got to fight it. You got to fight your fucking way out of there.
I loved that. I loved the feeling of like I was kind of panicking for a minute, and I was just like, oh shit. I'm like, how do I? Or like, I didn't parry on time because I hit X instead of C on the keyboard or something, and I was like, damn it. I'm like, wait, I gotta heal. Oh my god, I'm out of ammo. I gotta get my chainsword out.
So,
oh my god, it was fun.
One of the biggest problems that I find with games that usually have like swarm mechanics is, especially when a mob, its attacks time up with other mobs, so that they hit you like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as they work around you, and they're sort of blind to what each other are doing, and the computer is blind to what each other is doing, so you get stun locked. Did you get that in this game?
How do you mean? Could repeat that again? Like, how do you mean stun locked?
So, like, I don't want to name another game, but typically when a game when you're being swarmed by multiple mobs, sometimes just because of the fluke of the way that just because of the fluke of the way
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so you're like rooted.
It's not an actual mechanic of the game. It's just because the things timed up to that point where 3, 4, 5 attacks sort of timed to hit you at the same time.
Yeah.
Or in succession.
Yeah, there I think there was 2 times that I actually kind of had happened to me.
I felt as though there was at no point like that I couldn't fight my way out of where I was.
The one where like they're coming up those 2 sides.
Yeah.
I felt like that at one point.
Oh well, yeah, that was a little hectic.
Yeah. There was that time, and then there was the first. I think it was like one of the first times I hit like a swarm, and I wasn't moving. I was just
you gotta be moving.
Yeah. It was a lot to manage at one point, but
but you fought your way out of it.
Yeah.
Because you only died one time.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was the same one that got me. And it's because you get that one flush of units, and then as soon as you're just about to finish them off, another one hits.
Yeah.
And it just throws the timing off. That like your reload isn't full, your magazine isn't full, and your things aren't charged up, and you're just trying to get back up on your feet because you just got done killing 12 things. So now you got to go after the other 12.
And I love the swarm mechanics of it, but I also, what added to it more was like that one point of the mission where you're like, get into those doors, and they're like still swarming in through the doors, and you're fighting them, and then there's like two warriors
that
do
work their way in.
work their and then like you're fighting them after the doors are closed, and you can hear the banging on the giant metal thing, just they're trying to get in there, and you're just like, oh, it was good, it was fun.
I believe that's the moment that either Galadriel, or I think it's Galadriel, because he's the one that's like really concerned about the Tyranids. I'm pretty sure he's like, have you ever fought anything like this before? And Titus is like, kind of. And if you know the first game, you play, you fight orcs, and orcs are very similar to Tyranids in the way that they just dump bodies at you constantly, except they have more guns. There's almost no melee units in the orcs.
Yeah, the Tyranids remind me a lot of it's like a xenomorph had a baby with those things from StarCraft.
Yes. Well, we talked about that, right? That I told you the background story of like how Warhammer was actually.
Yeah, you did tell me about that.
Warcraft was actually based in what was supposed to be Warhammer. So StarCraft is actually Warhammer 40K's like team. Well, I don't want to say team you because it's good, but
Off-brand.
Not even off-brand, because it's not off-brand. It's just it's like it's his lost brother. Like,
fair enough.
The Zerg are quite literally supposed to be like Tyranids.
Yeah, that's what it was. Zergs.
And even the Zerglings look like Gaunts. They're almost identical. The spiky hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really I liked also the how like I was like I think it was when I first got the pistol and I was shooting it, and I didn't know I could ADS, and which is aim down sights. And I was like, I was shooting. I was like, oh, it's a big spread. And you're like, hit the middle mouse button. I was like, oh, and I'm like locked in. I'm like, boop, 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 boop. I'm like, oh, it's just fun, man. It's so fun. I really enjoyed it. It looks great. It plays well. It takes a bit getting used to with like, the parry and then but I like that because, even if you're engaged with another enemy, that blue little arrows show up like, hey, someone's about to like come at you, hit that parry button. And then there's times when like I'm like hitting at someone with like a saw, like the saw sword, and then all of a sudden, like without even looking, I just grab this thing by its throat and throw it over my head and stomp on its head, and I'm just like, yes. And I was just and it's just so fucking fun. And like, yeah, like there's times when I'm getting swarmed, but I'm just like, I can do this. I can get out of this. I can get out of this. I'm like, let me, and you kind of like I felt so bad. Your son came up and he was just like,
you were locked in,
and he came up with his hands up like pick me up, but I'm just like, he didn't even exist to me. I'm just fighting all these aliens and swarming around me, and I'm just like, I need to survive, and I'm just like covered in blood and alien blood and just shooting and chainsaw sword, and oh my god, I felt so bad. But yeah, it is a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it, and it made me want to learn more.
Takes you back to like 2004, like Xbox days, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a good game. It plays well. Another thing you had brought up is the executions. The there's no lag between like
it's so buttery smooth.
It's so just like execution, boom, and then attack, and then parry or whatever. Like it's just it plays very well.
And you get the I forget what they're called because they're not executions, but they're like the gun breaks where all of a sudden a red reticle will pop up, and you're in the middle of like swiping, you turn, and it's like if you watch, like you grab your gun, you turn, and you just aim, bang, and then you get right back into the mix.
Yeah, it
takes you out for a split second and then puts you right back in.
Yeah,
and it never throws off your rhythm.
No, it was like you said, it's very smooth and everything connected really well as far as like playability.
And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you, like, did it make you feel powerful? Because a lot of times you get into a game, and that's sort of one of the things that, like,
my balls were swinging.
That's one of the things.
And knocking over people in the head, just fucking, because I'm just 12 feet tall and just stepping over people. I felt like a god. Holy crap, it was fucking fun.
That's one of the things that I love Gears 1. I love Gears 2. Gears 3 started to pull me out. Gears 4, it was like
I think I played 1 and 2. I never played anything after that.
And well, what ended up happening was, like, if you're playing in the later Gears of War, you're supposed to be a super soldier. You're supposed to be elite. You're supposed to be good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're Marcus, and you've lived to this point. And, like, if you are out of cover for 2 seconds, you're dead.
Yeah.
And, like, that doesn't make me... That doesn't... like, and I get it. It's, in that world, you're dealing with very powerful things. But at the exact same time, you're dealing with, like, I forget if they were called, like, the skitters or the chitters, and they were, like, the little bomb guys that would, like, run up on you and just boom.
Yeah.
And it's like... They had that in this game, and they're floating around in the air, and yeah, they dive bomb you and whatnot, but
everything just turned green for a second, and I couldn't hear shit, and I was just like, okay, this is nice. This is nice. I like this. A little break,
what happened?
A little solace for a second. All right, back to the gore, and like but yeah, dude, like the one there's one parry move that when you parry an attack, it like they lunge at you, and you catch it with your chainsaw sword, but you grab its arm and you're just pulling it into it
through.
And I'm just like, oh, like, oh my god, and the just fucking tearing them apart, and I'm just and another cool thing is during the prologue, as I'm like fighting through these hordes of these aliens and just mowing them down, like, and I literally, like, 6 or 7 of them are right in front of me, and I'm just like swipe, and they're just dusted, mush, and I'm just like, step over you, excuse me, on to the next horde. But one thing I also liked was my cape and my armor and everything was just head to toe soaked in blood, and it looked good, and it looked like and not to say that, like, I see something covered in blood, I'm just like, delicious, but no, like, graphically, like, it looked like the way the cape was behaving, because I noticed
it didn't look like a texture thrown on top of a texture.
Exactly. But one thing I noticed was, as I was running in the beginning, because that was one of the first things I was trying to notice, is like, how is the environment behaving? How is my character behaving? And I remember that one of the first things I tried to do was I'm like, okay, WSD, front, back, left, right, easy peasy. All right, sprint is shift. All right, usual. And then I went to hit spacebar, and nothing was happening. And I'm like, this makes sense because, like, I'm wearing, like, something that is probably twice my weight in armor.
I'm a walking tank.
And and it's just, you're a walking tank. And I was like, okay, that makes sense, so I can't jump. But this is to dodge. Okay, so I can, as long as I hit whatever direction, I think it's like, if I want to, like, dodge left, it's like A spacebar. So I was like, okay, but I digress. One thing I noticed was in the cape, the way it was moving, it was like a fabric cape, and it kind of reminded me of like a like that, like a fucking
Like
curtain, and like the way it was moving. And but then once it was like soaked in blood, it was like heavier.
Mm-hmm.
And just little things like that. I'm like, and the way the light hit it, and
you didn't have any of those moments where there was like an artifact where the cape was like,
yeah,
for no
it wasn't
reason.
like glitching through my leg, like, you know, and little things like that. Like that happens so much in Star Wars: The Old Republic. I love Star Wars: The Old Republic so much, and it's still one of my favorite games. But there's times
older
when,
engine. It's an older engine. That's.
What is this running on?
I don't know. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't want to say it's Unreal 5 because I don't think it is. I think it's Focus's own engine.
Let's see. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 uses Saber Interactive's
Sabers.
Proprietary Swarm engine. The engine was previously used in World War Z to simulate large numbers of enemies, which was useful for developing Space Marine 2, to depict the game's Tyranid enemies. Space Marine 2 is a current gen exclusive game that will be available PC. Bullshit. Yeah, so yeah, Swarm engine.
So again, to harken back to the feeling of being powerful, there at one point you were talking about when they swarm you and you got to get through the doors. There's on screen easily 200, 300 enemies.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you felt nervous. I mean, but maybe pensive is the proper term.
There was a part when I'm like, I hit a button and I'm about to launch this payload into this launcher thing, and and it looks cool. It's like a gravity thing or something. It's like a hadron collider, but it's a launcher. And I'm like looking at it. I'm like, everything else around me is like trees and rock and like some, you know, parts of a building, and then there's this really cool like technological looking thing, which I like how technology is like
medieval, but still
futuristic. But the things that are futuristic are like CRTVs, and it's like 80s technology. Like, it's not like nothing's touchscreen, nothing's, because, you know, they believe that, you know, if technology advances too much, AI will become dangerous and stuff like that, which I think we should adopt. Like, I think we should go back to flip phones and AOL Instant Messenger. Like,
slowly, I will bring you to the Warhammer side.
Yeah, take me back to 56K modem. But yeah, and there was that thing powering up, and I'm like, I feel like I'm like, and there's a moment in that moment I felt like, okay, I feel like that I need to guard this from enemies that are coming, so it doesn't stop the thing from launching. And I was correct, and I was just like looking behind me, and you're like, no, look forward, watch the thing, and I see this thing lighting up like it's about to launch, and you're like, no, look at the ground below that, and I just see this like ocean of these Tyranids coming through, and I'm like, oh, holy shit. and oh my god, it was so fun, and it was great. And I was like, I forget what I said, but I'm like how long does this usually go for? Like, how many waves are there? And you were just like, let's just see how long you last. And I was like, oh, okay. So just keep going, just gotta keep on keeping on, and you gotta until, you know, the cutscene. But yeah, that's another thing that like I took into consideration was the amount, like the processing power of like how many. It's one thing to be like, okay, there's this many trees over here, there's this many rocks over here, there's this many structures and NPCs and stuff over here, but like to count all of that and make it run smoothly and make it look good. Dude, like, fucking hats off to the developers for this, because all other developers take note, because it looks good, it plays good, it feels good, and I wanted to keep playing, but we got to do this show. Which I would be remiss, remiss, is that the word I want to use? If I didn't mention,
yes,
we have merch. I updated a couple things on the merch that we had before. Now it's a front and back print. It's a bit cleaner and a bit better. I would say. John had brought up altering the design a bit. So we have merch. If you want to support us directly, we have the link in the description. We also have a tip thing where you can, if you want to support us directly as well, you can do that through tips or buying merch, or liking this video and subscribing and all that fun stuff. So
if you like what we do,
yeah, and I think
please support.
I think you do. Show me what you got.
Show us what you got.
Wait, do it again.
Show me what you got.
I want to see what you got. We are children. I actually recently had gotten.
Speaking of which, I didn't mean to cut you off, but speaking of which, did you know that when you play multiplayer in this, because it's so it's so much canon in Warhammer universe, that their helmets alter their voices to sound metallic and sort of voxy, that you can actually put a voice changer in the game. It's already in the game to sound like a Space Marine.
Oh, hell yeah. That's awesome. See, like, I love, like,
just the little things, man. It's
one of the things that, so I collect a lot of things.
You're going to start to collect a lot more.
And one of my favorite things to collect is helmets.
Dude.
I have a Black Series Stormtrooper helmet. I have a Black Series Dark Trooper helmet. I have I don't have the Black Series, but I have the Hasbro Boba Fett helmet. I have a what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's like when you go to like Spirit Halloween and you look at costumes and they have like the cheap one and then like the expensive one. It's like not film or anatomically. It's like,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I have the Master Chief helmet. That's like the good one, where it has like the LEDs on the side, and then like the visor is like you can see through it, but you can't see in it, and it just like I remember when COVID first happened, I went into Wawa with like I had a mask on, but I had the helmet on too. I doubled up, and the guy that was ringing me up at Wawa was like, "That's a really fucking cool helmet, man." I was like, "Thanks,
thanks, bro."
But
more like, thanks, bro.
Yeah, really. And then, but yeah, now I think I'm gonna have to get like a Grey Knights helmet or something. Because I think Cybercraft.
Before you make that mistake of like diving in, expand your knowledge of it first.
I will.
Because there are so many cool helmets when it comes to Warhammer 40K, because there's so many different
Factions.
There's factions and units, and like saw the chaplain and shot the skull face front.
That was cool looking.
Then there's Reavers, who have the half helmet. They're sort of like they're like stealth units, and they have like the half,
it's just like a respirator.
Well, it's like a half skull respirator that comes like, so it's like skull teeth that cover like just under your eye, and then it has like the two ports that come out this. Oh, dude. Then there's, I want to say it's Mark 6, where they have the bird helmets. They call them bird beaks.
See, I'm just gonna. I already have like no money. Which by the way, again,
the beauty of it is, because this has been around for so long, that you know what? There's a lot of STL files when it comes to like weird stuff. Oh yeah. So, yes. So that's the chaplain, obviously. Yeah. Then there's the Templar. That's actually a Firstborn helmet.
Shout out to Cybercraft for making really good helmets. They make really good Star Wars helmets, and but because Warhammer is very big right now, you should make a show in helmets according to the movie. Ooh.
Yeah, $435 each. Or
Yeah. Again, if you want to support the stream, but yeah, we're essentially doing this full time. So if anybody wants to subscribe to us or become a member, I don't know if we can become a member yet, but I don't know. I don't know if people can become members for us yet, but this is kind of like our full time gig. So again, if anybody wants to
what a horrible life.
we do this full time, so this is like our jobs pretty much at this point. So we I will actually be doing some more work with doing more deep dives into like YouTube, Twitch. We're still on there for like for streaming and stuff, but I think YouTube. And I'm going to try to be more active on the Instagram and TikTok. I think the TikTok, I made a thing for it. I just got to put together some clips of us like hanging out and talking and shooting the breeze. But yeah, it's a great idea, Victoria. We should do like a show in the
maybe Halloween.
In like the helmets. Like I'll bring my helmets over and we'll just I only have the 4 helmets right now. But yeah, Cybercraft is really good for.
There's Terminators, there's Librarians, there's Mark 10 helmets. See, I like the Terminators. Grey Knights sort of have a Terminator helmet. All right, I'm going down a rabbit hole.
I know, it's fantastic.
Take that back. I forgot what I was going to ask you.
These things are fucking diesel.
Well, it's like when you pulled up today, I sent you that video on Corvus Corax, and you said I had to watch. It was 11 minutes or something.
Yeah,
like that?
It's an 11-minute video, and I needed to watch it a second time through because there's just such a dizzying amount of information on just that one guy.
Yep, one guy, and there's 18 more.
Yeah, and I was just like
17 more.
And I love a good like lore heavy fandom, but it's a lot. It's so much.
If Warhammer lore was measured in tons, I don't think you could.
It's like, so to me, like I know a lot about Star Wars. Probably more than the average bear should.
The Siege of Terra, which is the Horus Heresy, is 13 books long. It's 10 full-sized novels and 3 novellas. And when I say full-sized novels, I'm talking about like I have one of the books. It's 600 pages. It's 10 of those. It is along the lines of like the Warhammer Bible because it literally is the foundation of like what's going on in Warhammer. And it starts off with like
I think we need to get Henry Cavill on the show too.
Yeah, right. I would love that interview. The Siege of Terra is sort of the semi-biography of the Emperor himself. The Emperor is still alive. He hasn't been struck down yet, and it details the betrayal of the brothers and the war that ensues after that. And there's like I want to say that there's like 5 major eras in the Warhammer universe. There's the Dark Age of Humanity. There's the Age of Strife, which actually is pre-Emperor.
And this takes place in 4040. 4040.
No, 40,000.
40,040.
Yes.
40.
Well, okay, so the Siege of Terror happens in 30,000.
Okay, that happens in the year 30,000.
Yes. So I was having this conversation with Stephanie last night because we watched. I sent you the other video where there was the fan animation.
Yes.
That was to give you an.
That was really well done. Like that made me want to pick up like how to learn like how to work on Blender.
Dude. So those are Necrons in that, and that was to give you an idea of what Necrons are like, and that's because I think very soon they're about to drop Necrons in Space Marine 2. I said it. Not enough people saw it, I guarantee, but literally the next day I started seeing people talk about it online. You can't deny when you get to the end game, you'll start to realize, and you're like, I recognize those hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
And it also gave you a pretty good sort of an interesting look into what it's called Awakening. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Christine. Skeleman cometh. Yes.
What's up, Alan?
The video is called Awakening. It was just released yesterday. It's about 45 minutes. It's a good watch. I want to say, just look up Awakening 40K. Totally give you a good insight into what Necrons,
really good video,
and Dark Angels are all about. But what was I going to say? I don't know. I went on a tangent. I hate myself sometimes.
Would you say that there's like, I mean, obviously like the Ultramarines and like the Dark Angels, like there are obviously factions that are like pretty high up on the totem pole of Warhammer.
Yeah.
Would you say that there are any factions where it's just like, you know, oh, those guys are weak, they're nothing, they're boring, they're dumb, they're stupid? Like what would you say are the factions that are that?
So
like on the bottom of the totem pole of Warhammer.
So this is the beauty. Oh, this is what I was trying to say. So Stephanie was like, "Are these guys that are going through the video Awakening?" And I'm going to get back to that question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to circle it around. She's like, "Are they important to the Dark Angels?" I said, "No. What they're important to is the timeline that they're in right now. That's who Ramiel is important to." And she's like, "I don't get it." I said, "Okay, so the reason why 40K happens 40,000 years into the
I always
future,
wondered what the 40K was. Now I get that it's the year.
It's the millennium. They're based on millenniums. So the reason it's the 40,000th millennium is so that there's no canonical errors. Anything could be happening at any point in time. That's why it's so big. It's not just a planet or a handful of planets. It's a galaxy. Mm-hmm. And something could be happening on this side of the galaxy, and something else could be happening on this side of the galaxy. And it could be happening right around the same time. And then another way that they worked in sort of error clearing is by saying that the communications across the galaxy itself are not always reliable. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
And if you bake it down to like, if there's a constant galaxy war, and you know what bureaucracy is like in America, let alone if it expanded a galaxy, like, of course things are going to get chewed up and spit out and lost, and it's going to get stuck in the teletube.
I hate that you said bake it down, and now my brain is just like, I want to bake something.
Bacon.
I want to bake some bacon. Yeah, anyone could be argued to have a role, really.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, is that just like what's going on in Star Wars right now, they literally made it so that can't happen.
Yeah. And
like, one of the big arguments that's going on is like people are like female custodies. Oh, female custodies. Honestly, I don't care. It's not my faction. Once they start putting women into Space Marines, I'm going to have a little bit of a beef with it. Not that I have okay. It's kept in the balls.
Now we're canceled.
It's kept in the balls.
Yeah, no, it's the same. I mean, it's the same reason why people were freaking out about Idris Elba playing James Bond. because he's a black man, and James Bond is a Scottish agent, even though he works for the British Secret Service. Or James Bond's origin is from Scotland, but he is so.
I wouldn't have a problem with Idris Elba playing James Bond because it's a moniker. James Bond is a name tag. It's not a person.
Yeah,
it's an agent delineation, or a classification. You know, that is literally an identity that somebody adopts to be that person.
Well, I think 007 is the entity, but I think because like James Bond was the name of the character, and I think Idris Elba would be phenomenal as James Bond. I think if the character, but then again, people are saying no, James Bond he's a white guy, he's from Scotland or whatever. I don't know why I'm talking like I'm from New York. I mean, I'm from New York, but my thing is, who gives a shit? As long as you have a good actor that can play a good character, have at it. As far as female custodies or female Space Marines.
So here's my beef. Let me box it out. My biggest problem with Idris Elba being 007 at this point, and I hate to say it, is that I think he would age out. I think he's aged out. I think he's too old to play the character now. Personally.
How old is he?
He's, I think, late 40s.
Oh, and he's a rapper too. I didn't know he was a rapper.
Yeah.
52.
I told you. Late 40s, 50s.
Well, James Bond is
he could pull off an old James Bond, but that's not what I'm going to watch. And that's the whole reason why Daniel Craig isn't doing it anymore, because Daniel Craig is around the same age.
Yeah, Sean Connery in Dr. No was 32.
That's my point. Again, Daniel Craig wasn't very old when he first started that contract.
Yeah, and he was 33 in From Russia with Love, 34 in Goldfinger.
And just to put it out there, I wouldn't want to see Henry Cavill as James Bond either. Love the guy, love his acting style, but he's not a James Bond character to me. So, getting back to what I said about the female custodies, my biggest problem with the female custodies is if they tried to do the same shit that they did to Star Wars, where they retcon a piece of information and then try and pretend like it's been there the whole time.
Yeah,
it's always been there.
That shit was infuriating.
The truth is, if you want to get really nitty gritty about it, there were female Space Marines. They had a funky name. There was like Soldier Susie and something else. And they're from 91 or 2, or even as far back as 88. And nobody bought them. So they got dumped. And to be honest with you, at this point in time, they'd probably be worth some serious cash if anybody's got the models.
Probably. But but the Space Marine thing, you said it's about it's in the balls, the actual testicles of the guy.
Quite literally. So when you become a Space Marine, they take a human being. They have these planets, right? And I showed you the comic form of it. You saw Space King.
Yeah.
Oh, praise be to Space King. But in the canon, so how far back do I want to go to explain this? Early days, the game was called Rogue Trader. And during that time period, when the Emperor was trying to unite the world, the planet Terra, he took human beings and he altered them to become what they called Thunder Warriors. But they didn't take the mutations well, and they would go fucking crazy. And they would be good for whatever, as long as they had something to kill and chew in front of them, they were good. But the moment they were not peacetime. There was no peacetime for these guys. So they would just, eventually you'd have them back at the barracks, and it's supposed to be calm time. We're supposed to be getting ready to go to bed. And they just start killing each other. They go fucking crazy. So the Emperor was like, yeah, we're going to wipe them out. We're just going to wipe out the entire lot of them, and we're going to start fresh. So that's where they started with the legions. and they came up with the Space Marines, known as the Adeptus Astartes. Yeah, why did I blank on that? So the Astartes, they would take regular humans at an early age, raise the stakes once a month on whichever video game you guys playing, do one death drink, one shot, and put it in the... I wish I could. I can't drink.
I mean, I could do it for you, but...
Yeah, right. So it would just be Barry Steve.
Raise the stakes once a month on whichever game you guys are playing. Do one death drink, one shot, and put it the game on the hardest. Oh yeah, yeah. I would.
That would just be Barry Steve.
I actually thought about there should be times when, it's literally just like this same setup with those camera windows, just make them smaller in both corners, and we just play a video game.
Sure, I think at some point.
But yeah, and it'll be better because if we hook up the Xbox, I can bring my capture card.
Yeah,
and we could just do it that way. Because earlier when we were trying to do it on your tower,
it
on
wasn't
that computer.
flowing.
Yeah, but if you have a capture card, like all you're doing is just capturing the video feed.
Right, it runs
the
itself.
Xbox is taking. Yeah, so we can definitely do something like that.
So, what they started to do is they would take human beings, they would recruit them, they would have to go through this, they have to actually prove themselves, and then they go through sort of like the ritual. You ever play The Witcher? Okay.
Never played The Witcher.
Okay. So, they start off, and becoming a Space Marine's a process. It's not like just like, poop, you're good, everything's okay. No, they go in and they do like 15 different surgeries to you, and they add 15 different organs to you, and one of them being your skin. They literally replace your skin with what they call the black carapace, which is a mixture of metals and weave to take over your skin. Amazing. But to get to an average height of 8 to 12 to 16 feet tall, because there is like 3 of them that are like 16 feet tall.
Jesus.
Tiberius, Alpha Primus, and I think Vulcan's also up there too. But he's a Primarch, so it's a little different. You need things that are going to make you grow. So they add stuff to your pituitary gland, and they add things to your testicles. Now, granted, in Space King, they're called the globulus. Now, there's something else. I forget exactly what they call them, but I think it's the progenitors. The progenitors. And the progenitor glands. And they literally double your growth hormone output. Like, this isn't like a semi-thought-out thing. Warhammer's canon is, like, very, very thought out.
And that's what I like about that. I think that's what makes it, because what little lore that I've delved into, like there was one small detail that I had asked you about. When Titus takes his helmet off, he's got those dots on his head.
Yeah.
And I asked you, I was like, "What are those?" And you said, "Oh, those are like they call them bolts, but the studs." And you said they help him like his suit, like when to help him move his suit and stuff. And I was like, that makes sense. And it's little details like that, because it's not like you just put the suit on and you just go. Like, no, this is how this needs to work.
Like you asked me, like, what's the backpack for? It's not a jetpack.
Yeah.
And I made the same mistake when I first got into this. I was like, yeah, it kind of seems like a jetpack. It's got 2 little things, and it looks like it's just like they should just kick on, right? Now, they have them. I wasn't going to say anything because I wanted you to play to that point, but it takes a little while. But they have what they call jump packs. And they basically augment the exhaust, but there's a whole nother separate engine that attaches to this thing that allows you to jetpack up. But the pack itself runs the suit. Mm-hmm. It's an engine and a motor system that allows all the servos that are on this plate. And it's not to make it easier on the Space Marine. That's the part that I didn't want to say to you because we were playing. I didn't want to distract you. It's not to make it easier on the Space Marine. It's so that the suit will actually keep up with his speed.
It's badass.
Right. And like we were at that same time we were talking and I said to you, I said, that they're typically clocked at like 28 miles per hour running, and they can go faster, some depending on their size, and because there's variability between all of them. But can you imagine a fully loaded 2-ton thing, like I said, a horse running at 28 miles an hour, fully armored? Like, no, I don't want to be anywhere near that thing.
I'd be crushed.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem. Like, if you want to paint if you have a Warhammer army and it's yours, and you want to paint it glittery pink, purple, rainbow colored, I am all about it, and I will fight you on the battlefield, and I will not judge you. I do not care what you do to your army, but don't try and change the game.
Yeah.
That's my issue with it. If you want to have it in this is the thing, it's your headcanon. If you want to 3D print 1,000 female heads and put them all on your Space Marines, and you have a female Space Marine army, be my guest. I don't care. If you want to make them that way, they're yours. What you paid your money for, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Do not try and change the foundation of the game.
Yeah.
And it's not the game, it's the universe. Don't try to change the foundation of the setting.
And that's what Disney's done with Star Wars, the fucking pricks.
Well, I don't really think that. I think this is Amazon's agenda. I think it's Amazon's agenda, and I think they specifically target the Custodes because they're Henry Cavill's army. Legit. Because they want him to bend the knee.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And because you know he has that entire, he's not broke.
Yeah.
And he cares for it. So you know that he's got every single one of those models. He spent a fortune on those things.
I think I love that. I think there was one interview that I saw of him. This is before I even had really heard of Warhammer. There was an interview where someone asked him, like, what's one thing that, like, you kind of nerd out about? Because I think it was around when he first got the role as Superman. He was somebody, like, they were talking about comic books and, Superman comics and this and that, and if he had ever read them, and then someone asked him, like, oh, like, is there anything, like, super nerdy that you're into? And he's like, Warhammer 40K. And I think that was, like, one of the first times I had ever heard of it. But yeah, he definitely has a deep love and respect for the game and the lore. And if they do a live action adaptation of this, I think as long as he's got the reins on it, I think it's in good hands.
Well, we'll see where that goes. Because I think they have to make an announcement for creation by the end of this year, and so far it's been basically in limbo.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything on it so far.
I watch those newsreels daily. So and just to put it out there, if it comes down to a question of representation, my biggest problem with that is that there is plenty of actual representation in the game itself already, in the universe itself. If you want female characters, you saw them. The Cadians. Typically, a lot of
those things in the red robes?
No, those are the Adeptus Mechanicus. They're the tech priests.
That's right.
She's literally the first character that greets you on Kodaku.
Oh, yeah.
She's got the big old scar on her face.
Yeah.
Most of the commissars, a lot of the commissars in Cadian forces or the Astra Militarum, which is who they fight for or who their faction is, are female. And they're badasses. Another group of female badasses would be the nuns with guns.
Yeah, I think you told me about them. I didn't delve too far into
Not only do they have their own human-sized super suits, but they also have like faith powers. They literally change the outcomes of battles through prayer and faith. Like they're sometimes more powerful than just the sledgehammer that is the Astartes. You know, and the Astartes have their own power. Like there's some that have powers too, but
and that's one of the things I like about this game is that it's futuristic yet it's medieval as fuck. Like,
yeah.
And it, you know, there's, you know, you have these like people who are knights with swords, but like he's pushing buttons on a computer.
And then there's the rogue traders, which are the bureaucrats of the. So a rogue trader is an aristocrat of the 40K universe that gets a special writ to basically operate their own mercenary force.
Mm.
And that's a whole nother game. And they're sort of they're like, what were they called back in? There was pirates, but then there was people who actually were like government allowed pirates.
I think you told me about this at one point.
Yeah. So there were people that like in the 1700s, maybe even earlier than that, would get a writ that would allow them to do pirate shit. Well, that's what the rogue traders do in the 40K universe. They're pirates. And if you want representation, they're anything you want them to be. They are literally, if you want them to be trans, they're trans. If you want them to be men, they're men. If they want them to be women, they're women. They're anything you want. And they do make those models.
Give me money and I will be that.
Right. So, like, you know, are they hard to find? Yeah, they're a little hard to find. They're not like the main force.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to find like box sets, but there are rogue traders out there. I've totally looked them up on eBay to see if I can find like what they are, because maybe I wanted to make, you know, a rogue trader ship just to fuck around. That's why the people who
that's
scream.
One thing I can't wait to get into is the ships.
That's how I know that the people who scream about representation in this game are bogus, because they don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know the lore. They're claiming that they're a part of it. They're claiming that but they don't want to know anything about the lore. They don't actually want to read the books. They don't really want to know the stories. They just want what you got.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to alter what they see, because they're not going to buy it. They're not going to jump into this. They're not going to, because they didn't already.
God, Leslie Adlin's such a piece of shit.
But that's my point. And unfortunately, because Star Wars gave up, because George Lucas gave up his hold on it, granted, you know, at some point it was going to happen, people came for it. Leslie Hedlund did not know the lore. It's the bottom line. Ever since I was a girl, you're full of shit. Ever since you were a little girl, you were full of shit. Because if you honestly knew it, then you wouldn't have tried to do what you did.
Mm-hmm.
If you honestly loved it, you wouldn't have tried to do what you did.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All right.
The one guy who was like, when Anakin blew up the Death Star, like, shut up. God. Yeah, just. No, we're talking about Space Marine. Before I get
talking about the good things. It's good things.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I'm at a point now where I'm like,
well,
fuck Star Wars. I'm just gonna get into like another fandom.
So from what you saw, the hour and a half that you saw, is it diverse? Is it a diverse universe?
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw men and women of different races and different things, and just coming together and fighting aliens.
You got Acheron. He's the commander that you walk up to, and he's Scottish. You got Titus, which could be either Italian or English. Can't really tell because he doesn't really have an accent or any real description. Like, he's just a standard white guy. Then you have Chiron, and he's a pretty awesome black guy. And you have Galadriel, who's the preppy Asian guy. But as you go on, there's more and more of that. And anybody who says like, "Oh, Warhammer's gotten woke because of that," well, obviously, again, you don't know anything about this. You don't know a goddamn thing about Warhammer because that's not new. It's been like that forever.
Mm-hmm.
Flip open, go to your local game store and actually go buy their actual product. Go look at their actual product. Flip the box around, and I promise you're going to see a diverse course of people on the back of that box because they paint them all different ways. Because it's up to you. If you want an entire black force because you want your own representation, you can paint your own black force. If you want a white force, it doesn't matter because the game is whatever you want to creatively come up with.
So it says here the first edition of Warhammer 40K rulebook was published in September of 1987.
Yes. And back then they didn't have human heads. Everything wore a mask. Mark 6 beaky boys. Beaky boys.
Yeah, here it is. First edition of the game titled Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader.
Yes, Rogue Trader was
based on Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Rogue Trader had been the game's working title during development. The Rogue Trader subtitle was dropped in subsequent editions, and it was published in 1987.
Yep.
Second edition was 93.
Yeah, it got named Warhammer 40K by accident. That was also like a working title that they kind of like stumbled across.
I'm seeing a lot of like Doom, like the Doom franchise.
Early stuff. Yes.
Like the first edition is very doomy.
Oh, and that's another thing. I have gone down that rabbit hole. Bro, the art is amazing. The early artists, amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. The art's really cool.
Adrian Smith. Check him out. I mean, there's there's a main guy that like everybody recalls, and he did like very specific art that was usually like red, yellows, blacks.
Yeah, it's very like dark fantasy.
Whites. Yes.
Like,
but Adrian Smith, dude. Oh my God.
This looks really cool.
Doom's who is more pissed off, Doomslayer or Doom Guy? Aren't they the same person?
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't they the same?
Maybe they're a different generation. Negative.
So they're actually two different people.
Who's the Doomslayer? Because I thought.
So Doom Guy is the main character in the Doom franchise.
And I guess Slayer's the new one? I'm kidding. The dude has like 3 different names. Okay. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Doomslayer is the title given to the main character of the video game series, which was previously known as Doom Guy.
Yeah.
The character is characterized by his rage and anger, which stems from his ability to protect his family from demons.
Rip and tear.
In Doom 3 novels, the character's name was John Kane. Some believe this character's name is actually Blaze Cowitz, similar to Wolfenstein. Blaskowitz. Similar to the Wolfenstein game's family name.
Yes.
In the 2016 Doom game, the character is only seen and heard from the first-person perspective.
Which one is that? Doom 3?
The Doom the 2016 game.
Yeah.
which is like it was. I think it was just called Doom,
Yeah.
but it was like a modern rendition of it.
Technically, Doom 3 redo or Doom 4, depending on. So, to bring it all the way back to one of your questions of, is there a force or a faction in the Warhammer universe that is sort of lame?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Uh,
Now, are you saying that because you don't want to piss off anybody who may be watching that has a beloved faction? They're like, your faction's dumb, or is it just like legit? Like all of them are pretty badass.
okay, let me take that back. When you ask me that question, I'm only thinking about Imperial forces or Chaos forces,
Okay.
and I'm wrong. Because it's the Tau. There's always the Tau.
The Tau.
The Tau.
He's Doom Marine.
The Tau are they're an alien Xenos race, and I would say that they're they have an interesting story. They're a little too reminiscent of the Covenant for me, but overall their gameplay, I'm not a big fan of. Now, the Games Workshop is in the midst of like trying to change their style of gameplay. So, when you're looking at a force, basically the things you're trying to balance out is you want to have the ability to shoot and you want to have the ability to melee, and those are basically like the different levels of what each force. There's more because there's stealth and there's
Aren't they basically Tyranids, but not as cool gameplay wise?
So Tyranids are a swarm faction, and there's orcs are a swarm faction. So Tyranids have guns, but they're not their main offense. Tyranids' main offense is their bodies.
Yeah, because
So
I noticed that like as I'd get swarmed, there'd be some off in the distance shooting some green shit at me, and I'm just like,
okay. So to understand Tyranids, the Tyranids' whole purpose of existence in the universe is to consume. That's it. They wipe out planets, they take every bit of biomass, and they turn it into more Tyranids. So they have zero care for life. They do not care. All life is food. There is food, and then there is food, and then there is not food. They don't care about guns. They don't care about metal. They don't care about tanks. They don't care about anything. If it's consumable.
And I noticed that like because when I was playing the game, I looked down and I saw this gun that I couldn't pick up because normally any other bolt pistol or something I walk by I could pick up. I came across one of the Tyranids guns that was like up on a ledge that was shooting at me, and eventually I get up to that ledge and I'm like looking around and I see this gun, and I went down to look at it and I'm like, oh, that's a gun made of meat.
It's a gun made of meat that's literally attached to them.
And I was like, that's not a knife.
Well, you notice, you said one of your favorite executions when he rips off the sword and stabs him with his own sword. But if you pay attention, he rips off his whole arm because it's attached to their arms. They can't do anything else because their hands literally mold to the weapons.
Yeah, because I noticed that there was ones where it's like they have like it's like a scyther.
Yes. The Revener, the one that would go underground and then pop up out on top of you, and they'd have like they had the big Sith arms.
Yeah.
Or the little ones that are like Termagants. They were the little guys that were
that run at you like raptors.
Yes.
Yeah, those guys that were running up to me and like swiping at me, like it was cool. I'm really digging the game, and I'm really digging the lore, and I'm really digging everything else about it. And then I want to get Space Marine 1 first before I think I continue playing Space Marine too.
So one of the most reminiscent thing that Tyranids are, one of the things that Tyranids are most reminiscent of, let me say it that way, Starship Troopers, those bugs.
Mm.
So what they do is, say you're a particularly nasty force, right? You're humans. And they are incurring on this planet. And you put up a really good fight. Well, eventually they're just going to keep throwing bodies at you until they overtake you. And they're eating you. And through eating you, they're learning from you. And they're learning your tactics. And say you were really good at putting up walls and parapets and gun emplacements. Well, the next things that are going to come out are these siegecraft. The next generation of Tyranids are going to be these siegecraft things. You're going to start getting larger, Carnifexes, biovores, which are these things that have cannons on their backs that literally just spew acid. So they constantly. That's why, there's certain things that a person who knows the lore would have caught. That, like, when the whole point of you launching that rocket into the air was to release a virus bomb. And you hear Titus say, that's going to do us some good for now. It's going to slow them down.
Yeah, it's going to delay them, yeah.
And that's why.
And I remember hearing that in the game, and I'm like, wait, this isn't like to wipe them out. This is just to slow them down?
That's just to slow them down.
And I was like, oh, shit. And I'm like, he's going through a lot just to delay him a little bit. I'm like, dude lost his whole team and everything, and that was just... But now, can you have a Tyranid army?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, if I... in case I wanted to play as, like, a Tyranid, I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. And now... Well, see, that's another cool thing, because if they adapt like that, like, you could... There are probably so many different kind of Tyranid, like...
Exactly.
Oh, man. Whoever fucking created this, I just want to shake their hand, because it's so brilliant.
There's a Xeno race that I believe the Adeptus Mechanicus and like an entire Imperial force literally just camp on this planet. I forget exactly, like, I forget the name of them, but they literally just camp on this planet, and whenever they hatch, they just slaughter them. They can't stop them from reproducing. But the whole purpose is, like, so that the Tyranids and this race never come across each other, because the adaptations that the Tyranids would gain from it would literally drive the entire galaxy extinct.
Huh. That's don't break that wall.
There's just so many little hidden things like that that's all throughout the universe that, that are so awesome.
That's what I'm really digging about this. Oh god, so good.
So the Tau are basically, like, think of an entire army of Halo elites. And basically the lesser force, they're called the Kroots, are like the angry chickens from Halo.
Oh, like the jackals, yeah.
So basically it's the elites and the jackals, and that's what makes up, like, the Tau. And then there's a class system of, like, the air. It's like air, water, rock, and fire. And, like, fire, it's either fire or, like, the warriors, and the rocks are just like slaves. They're basically just fodder that, like, the same way that the Imperial uses human beings, they do the same thing with the same class. And there's just so many, like, sort of political nods to, like, the Tau look down on the Imperials, because the first time that they ever came across an Imperial, they trapped him and they were interrogating him, and he realized that because the air have like telekinesis, so they were like trying to get into his brain, and he was blocking them, and they were like, how is he able to do this? And that's because there's, they have such indomitable willpower. And when he realized that they were starting to like pick at his mental blocks, he stopped his own hearts and died. And they were like, that thing's so crazy that whenever we come anywhere near any of them, we kill them all. And that's pretty much how the Tau feel about, like, they don't negotiate, they don't deal with humans at all because they're terrified of them. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. That's one way to not get a alien race to fuck with you. It's just like, oh, they're trying to get in my brain.
Space Marines have 2 hearts. That's one of their...
That's right. You said they get different organs.
So they have 2 hearts, 3 lungs that they can shut off by their own... Yeah.
You need coffee to wake up. Yes, no, I know. I gotta...
You sent me...
I gotta sleep at a decent hour, though. If I drink coffee, I'll be... I mean, maybe I'll have coffee.
You sent me that one video about where they talk about how they have a gland in their stomach, an organ that's attached to their stomach, that when they eat stuff, they get surface memories of...
Yeah, because I remember there was a thing where you said like they taste blood and they get memories of like that being of like the blood they just tasted from that thing.
Yep.
Or like they eat the flesh of it.
Yes.
Now is it like if they just taste the blood, but then they also like are they going to get more memory and more information from eating a chunk of flesh than they would?
No, it's about the same.
Licking blood.
It's about the same. And like even in the video, it says like those memories aren't always even trustworthy. So, because you're not reading somebody's mind, you're kind of reading what their thoughts were before they died.
What their interpretation was. Yeah, because there's always that, like, there's three sides to a story. Theirs, and the truth. But yeah.
What's something else to touch on? I don't know. Do you have any questions?
Not really off the top of my head right now. I all I really got to say is that just the game was great. I enjoy it. This one knocked it out of the park. The only thing that I, from what I understand, that they do need to fix is the online gameplay where, it's because Tim was playing it and he said that like he was normally his KD ratio on like Call of Duty is always like 3.0. Like this guy's a machine when it comes to like online like PvP type multiplayer games. But from what I understand, they need to fix the matchmaking.
So yes, the matchmaking issue where you log in and a guy is just standing at the customization screen like playing around and not even realizing that you're standing there is a problem. I was actually wrong when we were talking about this the last time. I said that what I figured was that the guns were probably overpowered going from PvE to PvP, and it's actually the reverse. Wait, did I say that right? Yes.
That's usually how it is, because normally to kill PvP, like to kill other players, you need a lot more firepower. More so than you would need to kill like NPCs.
And it's actually the reverse. Like the melt-a-gun, like you were just wiping out swaths of things.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of players' favorite gun. And the reason is in the lore, it basically just melts armor. And there's a lot of save rolls when it comes to pretty good armor, but you can't save roll against a melt-a-gun. So that's why when it was taking 3 shots to kill a person in multiplayer, people are getting a little upset because it should be like...
Yeah, it's literally just like a volcano sneezing on you.
Yep.
And I love it. It was a really fun gun to use in the game.
That's like a shotgun flamethrower. You're like, oh, the first time you click it, you're like, oh.
Give me some more of that. I'll take it. Yeah, the as far as like the I don't really have anything else to say aside from like other developers take notes because this is good. This is what this was very reminiscent of like when I used to play Xbox back in the day, and like when a game came out, it was good, and I enjoyed it and had fun, and there were, like you said, there were no artifacts, there were no glitches. This was a polished, finished product that like just it was immersive. It was so fun.
I would say that they're going to do live because this is supposed to be, like they said, this is not a live service game. Yeah, granted, but it is semi-live service, and I think that they're doing it the right way, where they're gonna give you like crumbs, not maybe that's crumbs, but they're gonna give you little bits, more and more and more, of like things that are gonna keep you engaged in the game, rather than like, oh, new pack that you have to buy customization for.
Yeah, all like the DLCs that you got to buy and everything, which I don't think that, like, it used to be you buy a game, you played it, and if it was good, you played it again. And there were a lot of games like in the late 90s to the 2010s. There were a lot of games that had
I
replayability.
still play.
Yeah, I still play Skyrim.
Yes.
I still play Oblivion and Morrowind. I still have Daggerfall and Arena.
Yes.
And granted, like Daggerfall and Arena are more like, why am I not hitting this when I remember like, oh wait, I have to click and swipe to swing. And it made so much more sense back then. I think the very first PC game I ever played was Daggerfall on,
click and slide
and it
forward,
was like multiple floppy disks. That I think was my one of the first games I ever played on PC.
Well, one of the funniest things that I've seen so far was a reel where a guy was like, "Huh, it's like they almost, or it's like they actually sent out a finished game," and that's sad that that's where we're at. That's that's the state of the industry. That like people aren't even striving to put out a full game.
Like Cyberpunk didn't really get good and get to the point where it felt finished until like Phantom Liberty.
I heard
or the patch that was like right before it.
I heard somebody talking about this the other day. So like we're in a weird era right now. There's games like Concord. For everything that you could say about Concord and Dustborn and all these modern audience games, the interesting thing about them is the peak player amount for Concord was 60 players for the entire week that they released. It never broke 100, never broke 200 players.
Concord, I don't think I'm too familiar with.
Well, anybody who let's analyze this for real. Anybody who's aware of the gaming industry, because like we are not in a generation where people are new to the gaming scene. My son's been playing video games since he was 3 years old. Granted, I limit his screen time, so don't come at me like that. He doesn't get more than 2 hours a day. That's it. And I know
it came out like a month ago.
I was a kid, I used to think that was like punishment. But the point is, kids are born with controllers in their hands. They're born with iPads. So, yeah, it's a hero shooter. If that's it, it's like Overwatch.
Yeah, this looks like shit.
So why does it look like shit? Because it looks like regurgitated garbage that somebody just pumped out. It looks like a cash grab. By the way, it wasn't free to play like Overwatch and every other game that's in that genre. It was $40. Meanwhile,
this looks so dumb.
Meanwhile, it was shipped with bugs. Sorry, we're past that point. We aren't doing that anymore. Like CD Projekt Red, they had The Witcher under their belt already, right? They had an established foundation. So when they shipped Cyberpunk and then had the audacity to say, listen, guys, we're going to fix this, and then made good on that promise, and then dropped a phenomenal DLC, they redeemed themselves 100%.
Yeah.
But they already had something that said, "Hey, come back."
Yeah.
You know, it's like give us a chance. I know we screwed up. Me missed a death. That's fine. That's cool. We'll take care of this. We got this.
Yeah.
Let us fix this. There was another game that was really like it was like Call of Duty or something else, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. But it in the exact same regard, they already had a foundation. I think Concord's main producer was EA. It's like, you guys got the worst reputation on the block.
Yeah.
And you're just here for the cash grab. You literally reskinned Overwatch and tried to charge us $40. You thieves.
EA sucks.
Like, now the hilarious part is they dumped $100 million into this game.
What didn't another studio actually, I think, replace them on a lot of projects? Alan, do you help me out here? Do you know what studio starts with a B? And I keep thinking, I want to say like Bastard something, but it's not. Definitely not that.
Well, did you hear what's going on with Xbox? And everybody's pissed off at Phil Spencer.
Who's Phil Spencer?
Phil Spencer's the CEO of Xbox Entertainment.
Okay.
Everybody's mad at him. Well, all the talking heads on YouTube are mad at him right now because he just did like 2,500 layoffs for Activision and Blizzard.
Wow.
I'm just saying, and
Broadsword.
That's
okay. What it was.
Maybe
yeah, they replaced a lot of projects that EA was working on.
Maybe it's
for the better.
Just me, but Activision hasn't put out a decent game in. I mean, it's 2024. I think the last time that I was actually even concerned, it was 2016.
The last Activision game, I think
I'll
really
take that
played.
back. I'll take that back, and I'll say, what was the one that they released over COVID?
Fuck if I know.
Was that Black Ops?
Maybe. Yeah, because honestly, the only Activision. Anytime I hear Activision, I think of Tony Hawk Pro Skater and the eyeball.
Well,
and like like that.
That's
I can't think of anything else. Like I totally forgot that they did Call of Duty as well.
That's the thing that drives me insane, is the fact that that's the Activision that I grew up with.
Yeah.
Tony Hawk and Nervesoft was the eyeball. But yeah, it was still Activision.
Neversoft, yeah.
Those, like, I remember Activision putting out all kinds of different games. All different stuff.
Yeah. They had an impressive roster in like the early 2000s.
Activision,
mid-2000s.
if I remember correctly, was one of the original like arcade producers.
Mm-hmm.
And now they put out one game every year.
Well,
one.
Do you think that might be because the gaming industry now is so much more saturated?
No, I think it's quite the opposite. I think it's quite the opposite.
I mean, like back like when in that era, like in the 90s and the 2000s, I mean, you had Activision, you had Neversoft, you had Square Enix, you had Rare, Rockstar is another big one. Vice City, I still play to this day. It's one of my favorite games. I got the definitive edition for Nintendo Switch. And every once in a while, if I can manage to, get a few moments to hop in and play for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, I'll do it. But those were like the big ones back then. But now, like, you have so many more. Like now you have, all these different studios. Like I feel like there's more studios and games available now.
There's far less studios than there used to be. Far less studios.
I don't know. I gotta think.
Here's one of the things. We're in a video game bubble right now, because Activision, Blizzard, what's not SquareSoft, Bethesda. Do you know who they're all owned by?
Microsoft.
Microsoft. So let's be realistic. There's one. Out of the 3 or 4 names that I just named, there's one studio. There's departments of that studio, but there's one studio.
Yeah, so I'm looking up here. So a lot of the big ones right now are Nintendo, Electronic Arts, Activision, Tencent, Take-Two Interactive, Ubisoft, Microsoft, Epic Games.
Ubi's financially hurting right now.
Yeah, they haven't put out a lot of...
Ubi's talking about going bankrupt.
Microsoft, Epic Games, Bandai, that was another big one when we were growing up. Sony Interactive, Square Enix, Rockstar, Sega, Warner Brothers Games, Roblox. See, like Roblox is obviously a new one. Epic Games is obviously a new one.
No.
No?
Epic Games was one of the original producers of Unreal, the first one.
Was it really?
Yes.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Capcom was a big one. Konami was another big one.
Epic, which I believe is now the main producer of Fortnite, the one that they kick their heels up and now they just sit back and collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
Used to produce games like Unreal and Unreal Tournament and Unreal Tournament 1 through 5, but they became a one-trick pony and they created Unreal Tournament's silly little brother, Fortnite.
So Fortnite was actually a game when right when it was about to come out. And this was back when I used to regularly stream on Twitch. I had got my hands on a what's it called? Being one of the private testers for the game.
A beta tester?
Yeah. But it was exclusive to streamers.
You're a beta.
And it was but it was exclusive to streamers. So that they could stream the game and kind of help get its popularity. And the whole dropping onto the island and fighting your way out and the typical battle royale style that they have wasn't initially the game. It was you and 3 other players that you had to weather this storm and you had to build a fort and it was not originally what it was supposed to be. But they did, and the battle royale part was just a free part of it but because it was free, so many more people were playing that part of the game, that version of the game, to the point where when you think of Fortnite, you just think battle royale.
Yeah.
And a part of me is I remember a friend of mine, actually it was Tim that sent it to me. And I was just I don't think I'm going to play this. I don't think I'm going to try this one.
No, I refuse.
It doesn't look good. And actually, no, it's a lie. I did play it, but I was like, you know what? I'm not going to stream this. It doesn't look good. I don't think this is going to be very popular. Now it's one of the most popular games.
Yeah, but you're not missing anything because it's dead.
Yeah.
It's a zombie.
It's and what really... I have friends that play it, and I played it with them a couple times, but I never have gone out of my way to really play that game by myself.
Here's one. Here's. I remember when I bought one of my Xboxes, it came with a free version of PUBG.
PUBG, I remember that was another battle royale game that it was actually. I played that a little bit. That was kind of fun. My problem with battle royale games is that I blame them for the death of good video games. I blame them for the death of... Originally, you couldn't ship a game unless it had a campaign and multiplayer. Yeah.
And PUBG and Fortnite and all those terrible... Sorry, Alan. Not sorry. All those terrible-ass battle royale games are the reason why producers started developers started just creating... they are the reason for live service games. That's the reason why live service games exist.
Mm-hmm. And Fortnite, I honestly, it had potential, but it relies so heavy on other franchises. Like, buy this skin to look like a stormtrooper,
Well, yeah.
or like Goku,
That's
or like this character from this fandom. Like you can
Now,
dress
see-
up like Scarlet Witch or Doctor Strange or whatever, and they
I-
rely so heavily on other franchises, and it's fucking ridiculous.
I love DayZ. I love DayZ, but I also only play on a PvE server, and it also has auto kick if you kill another player, and that's because for me, I want to fight zombies and build a base and survive and stealth around. And matter of fact, it actually increases the number of zombies on the server itself, and it actually has to have a limited amount of players because there's so many zombies out there. But that aside, I never played Arma. I want to play Arma, but like PUBG, it. I can see it's like this. I was actually having this conversation with my son the other day. One of my best friends loved Counter-Strike, and
That's another game I never got into.
I could never get into it. And I'll be honest, because I sucked. I sucked at it. I didn't understand it. To me, I want to think. That's why Warhammer is. I'm a big CS dork. Well, I'm not knocking you, dude. It's funny because my best friend's. Fuck it. My best friend's gamer handle was Big Tom CS Dick. Yup, I shit you not.
I actually created a new character on New World, and I was cracking up at myself because I was like, what should I make the name? And first, because they don't let you make the name if it has like a curse word or like something in it, but like, you know, people like there was one guy I saw his character's name was Bearded Hooker, but it was like instead of ER at the end, it was just R, and I was like, that's funny. And what was so the one was all one word, just bro give me head. And the one that I actually ended up going with for my character, I actually made as a nod to you. So, because it was really funny, because you put a bumper sticker on my car once, so my character's name is Deep Throat King, but the O and A are swapped. But at first glance, you're still gonna read that as Deep Throat King, and I'm like, that's hilarious. So now I have this like tank build, and it's just a dude with a mustache called Deep Throat King. And I'm laughing at myself, like trying to do. I'm like, do I name him Bro Give Me Head or Deep Throat King? Oh my god.
So, I watched what. Now, this is my best friend. We played video games. Since we were like 5, dude, and we used to play Nintendo 64, and like, he's the reason why I'm as good at video games as I am, and because he was good. Tommy's good. Tommy's one of the best. Why he never got into esports is beyond me. But first it was WoW, and he kind of disappeared, and we stopped hanging out.
That'll happen when you get into WoW.
And then it was CS. And then when he got hooked on CS, he just disappeared. Like, he completely disappeared. And it was like, yo, dude, you know, we got to hang out.
Disappearing mean like he never left his room.
Never left his house.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we would get together, like the rest of the crew would get together, and we would go shoot pool and hang out on a Friday night. And I'd be like,
those days.
that's what I mean.
Oh, I miss those days.
And we would call him up and be like, I got a raid, or, you know, I got a clan meeting that we got to get together. And it's like, bro.
We're real.
We're real. Like, and you know, and then I started seeing the same types of behavior in other people playing Fortnite, and I saw the same types of behavior happening in people playing all those other games, and it was just like,
see, like, okay, so I agree with that, but like me being a person who has been so deeply involved with like streaming and online gaming and stuff, especially during COVID. Not so much before, but like because I didn't really get into streaming until like 2016, and I wasn't really as invested until maybe like just before, like a couple years before COVID really started happening, is when I started like getting more into streaming. But when you're online in your game, like it's like you have this like online community where like it's kind of the same feeling as like when like me and you and like, you know, the rest of our friends would go like play, like shoot pool or grab wings or, you know, whatever, and we would just, it's the same as like, you know, oh, let's go to Tatooine and do this, that, and the other, or let's go in this part of this game and
well, I would be lying to say like me and my girlfriend, my wife. I'm sorry. Do you have a? Do you have,
put the knife down. Put the knife down.
do you have one of these? Can I borrow yours for like a split second because mine died?
What am I again?
My wife, the love of my life. We ended up. I got her into World of Warcraft. So the person who got me into World of Warcraft was Kevin Hopkins. That prick. Love him. Miss you. We got to hang out.
I think Tim got me into it. Actually, he didn't get me into it. He got me into it by proxy, because he was actually working on a game at the time that was it reminded me of WoW, and then he said that he had played it and was telling me about it. I had never gotten into it at the time because our friend Tronger used to call it World of Warcraft, and I was like,
yes.
yeah, and so
Yes.
and
did I.
I didn't get it, and then I finally played it, and it was those things where like, okay, I'm gonna download this game. I got it on my crap top at the time, my compact crap top, and it was like 8 p.m. and I made a character and I started playing it, and the next thing I know, the sun is coming through my windows, and I'm like, what just happened?
Longest stint I ever did on WoW was, I believe, 36 hours straight. Yeah. I got off of work. I sat down, I logged in, and I played nonstop because our kitchen was literally like right behind where my computer was. And I would get up
That's
just
really
enough.
convenient,
Oh,
actually.
it is. I would get up, I would cook myself some ramen, and I only realized how much time had passed because of how many empty bowls were sitting on my desk. And I think I'm like having that moment where it's like, I haven't slept. I'm staring at these bowls, and I'm like, how did they get here? And then I look at the clock, and I'm like, holy shit, I got to be to work. And yeah, so I still have nightmares over OG. So,
OG Seathun.
I end up getting out of it for a period of time because I had actually lost my girlfriend at the time because of it, partially.
Wait, so hold on, before you continue, let me ask you, what was your like main? Like what would you usually run?
Blood Elf Hunter. That was my first. And then when I one of my characters that I maxed out was a gnome warrior. He was hilarious because he was this little he was this little peanut guy with this giant axe.
Yeah.
But I got her into it, and we played for about a year. And then all my friends kind of fell out at the same time because we all had at that point. I actually joined Tommy's clan, and he was a maxed out character, and they helped us max out. And then we got out of WoW.
Got out when the getting was good.
Yeah, and at that point in time, people started moving around, and we got out of WoW and got back into Magic the Gathering because that was like right around 2010, 2011, and then played Magic the Gathering until about 2015. I got out of that, and I just recently got back in.
I haven't noticed.
Yeah, I know. It's the whole setup.
The kitchen table is made for food, not Magic the Gathering cards.
Lies. That's why I got a counter, and you can sit over here. You, hush your mouth. The kids love it. And they're good.
His wife is giving him staring daggers at him.
So the very little. Yeah, well, that's part of the point that I'm trying to get at is that the games have become so consistent with microtransactions, and that's what I was making fun of Fortnite because you have to purchase so much.
Yeah.
So the same person who got me into World of Warcraft, and one of the people that got me into Magic the Gathering back in the day too, Kevin Hopkins, he's like my little brother. And one day I'm like researching this ancient game. I told you it's called Siege of the Citadel, Mutant Chronicles.
Yeah.
And I'm researching it, and he sends me a picture of a miniature that he's painting. And I'm like, when did you get into mini painting? And he's like, well, he's like, I run a D&D sesh, and I just wanted my characters to have representation on the table. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And he was like, it's really relaxing. And I was like, really?
You're like, I want to be relaxed.
And I'm like,
I like relaxing.
I'm like, you really enjoy it? And he's like, dude, it's not that hard. It's a lot of fun. It's like, and you're building these worlds. And he's like,
oh yeah, D&D's like I think there was a couple times when we played back in high school. And
D&D? No, I never played D&D with you.
No?
No.
Who the hell did I play with back then?
I played with one of my old managers, Mario. Played a couple sessions with him. I played Donnie. Shout out Donnie Bingham. He GM'd a couple. I like Donnie's way of GMing. Because his way of GMing is far less convoluted than most people.
Yeah, I think I played I used to play. I played it more when I was younger because I think everybody played it more when they were younger. But I played it once recently with actually a couple friends from work, and it was through Roll20.net.
Yes, that's a fun way of doing it.
Yeah, that was fun, and it was cool because you had like the worlds when you used to have like the mat and everything, and you would have things here, but it was cool because it was digital and you had like everything. And you know what? I played Dungeons and Dragons online.
Okay.
I think I made it 15 minutes in. And I was just like, this sucks.
Yeah, no. D&D is one of those games. D&D, Warhammer, Magic the Gathering. That was one of those things like you need to have people with you.
Yeah.
Like that. The whole purpose of it is to have that face to face. That because you're laughing because one of the other great DMs of D&D is Kevin Hopkins. You want to talk about a person who literally like switches character and he plays all the characters that you interact with.
Oh, that's fun.
And he's hilarious.
I think it'd be because when I was playing that one session, I think it was last year, or earlier this year, I played it was like it wasn't a usual Dungeons and Dragons like campaign. It was more like what's the word I'm looking for? Like Clue.
Okay.
Like
a murder mystery.
Murder mystery. That's it. It was exactly that. It was a murder mystery thing where.
Were you playing with? Oh wow.
Venus.
Yeah, Venus.
Yes.
I was gonna.
Yeah. Yeah. It was me. Venus was the
Venus is good.
The DM.
She's a good.
Athena and
She needs
Felix.
to write a book.
Yeah, it was fun. And she helped me with my character sheet because like I'd never used Roll20 at the time, and like she's like just do this, do that, and the other, and I ended up making like every other thing that I do that has anything to do with Dungeons or Dragons, whether it's Elder Scrolls or whatever. I went Wood Elf Archer. And we were just but it was fun because we were like, oh, can I roll for initiative to call this person an asshole and see what happens? Like little things like that, and it's so fun.
Well, I played one game. I think there was like 3 sessions, and this one kid was a DM, and I have never had to fight to stay awake so bad in my life. Me and Venus were actually both in that party, and that's so hilarious. It was just slowest, drawn out. But Kevin, on the other hand, phenomenal. And I can imagine, like, if Venus was actually DMing, she was running that game, right? Yeah, and that girl's got energy.
Yeah.
Her and Kevin would be very similar in the way in their style, and she's all about the meticulous details, and Kevin's very, very detail oriented too.
Yeah, there was a couple things where like we eventually ended up getting to the point of the campaign where we found out who the murderer was, and this and that. But I like that she went back and there was like things that we missed, like hints that were here and there, and she was like, so if we go back here, you would actually have like a direct line of sight at like this point. So was where the murderer would have been able to do this, and like little hints, like the way it was written was really cool. It was really fun, but that's another thing. Like video games are fun, and I guess this is another thing I was going to bring up earlier, real quick. Someone reached out to me on Facebook Messenger, and it was someone that like apparently that I knew, and said, I'll read you the messages later, but it was something along the lines of like, yeah, I'm still the same. I'm like I never really, I don't think I ever really grew up. I don't think I've changed since I was 5. Like I'm the biggest kid I know. I still collect comics. I still play video games. Like, and but yeah, I got to tell you about that later. But yeah, games nowadays, like video games are fun. I love video games, but something about like
the overarching moral of what that whole little tangent was about is story. All of it involves a good fucking story.
I was literally about to say, like, online gameplay is fun. Like, I love Halo. I love playing multiplayer online. But there's a reason I still play Star Wars Old Republic over and over and over, and I play different characters and different, like, I'll play a Jedi, or I'll play a Sith, or I'll play a bounty hunter, or a smuggler, or a trooper, whatever.
I realized
because the stories are so good.
I realized, like, I was a Mass Effect fan. I liked Mass Effect, the first one, and the second and third are pretty good too. But when I realized that the industry was starting to change in an uncomfortable way was when Andromeda dropped, and everybody was bashing it because of the gameplay. The graphics were good, but the gameplay sucked.
Yeah, I remember it had a lot of bugs.
If you're playing a Mass Effect game and you're not talking about the story, you're not playing the game.
Yeah.
Same with Dragon Age, same with anything else. And if you noticed, when was the last time any of them have ever been produced?
Dragon Age, I think, Lineage, I think, was the last one.
And that's how old at this point? Now, is that because of? This is the question. Is it? And I think Space Marine proves the point.
Would you eat too many beans earlier?
Got to oil up that chair. Is it because people don't want to play a game that tells a story anymore? And
No.
2 million players in the first week of release.
That's the thing. The reason people play video games is because they want to escape their mundane existence in the real world. They want to play a character in a world that's made up and fantastic. And
I don't give a fuck about representation as long as the story's good.
Yeah.
I don't need somebody to represent. I don't care what color the main character is. I will play them no matter what, as long as the story is good.
But I think the whole representation thing is also akin to, like, you look at the demographic of, like, the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
Not a lot of girls were playing video games. But you look at, like, the demographic now, and like, girls are playing video games more often say than, like, when we were kids.
See, sure. I'll give it that.
I mean, yeah, the people who are crying representation, they're the same people who are a part of this woke movement.
I didn't look at Bayonetta and go, I'm not playing that. It's a girl.
Yeah.
I didn't look at Resident Evil and go, I'm not playing that. That's a girl.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look at any of those characters and go, I'm not playing that. That person's Asian. That person's black. That person's female. I never gave a shit.
Metroid.
I don't. No, when you found out Metroid was a girl, you weren't like, oh man, that was a chick.
Sucks.
This game sucked. No, you're like, oh my god, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, nah, man. I
And then she came out in the blue Zero suit, and it's like, why are my keys sticking together?
Hey,
you love me.
But at the exact same time, like, I'm trying to get my wife in Warhammer.
Are you not?
Are
you not that interested in Warhammer? Okay.
She sort of had the same reaction that you did when you heard, because I dropped a little bit of like a lore bomb on her earlier today, and she was just kind of like, that's interesting. Like, but my question is, do you feel it absolutely, now this is anecdotal, of course, but do you feel it absolutely necessary that if you had to pick an army that totally represents you? No, you usually pick guys.
Alan says, how can you even hold 40,000 hammers?
40,000 hammers? One hand at a time.
God, that's good.
To the left. He said, how's the hammer hanging? I said, to the left.
When you pick a female character, they can't carry as much shit because they're not as strong. Because, hello, we're not as strong. So no, I play the men, and I usually play the big men.
So this is more of a reference into like an RPG, like Skyrim.
Yeah.
Along those lines, and carrying capacity, because you want a mule. Yeah, you want what do they call it? You want a craft mule? You want a pack mule? So he's got to be big, stupid, and able to shoot. That's all.
That's actually, yeah, because
Yep.
I've been playing New World a lot lately.
Art imitates reality, and I carry your purse everywhere.
That's why you got to get the perch that matches his outfit.
Right. That's what she did. She got a black one that has like neon on it.
There you go.
Everything I have is black.
Cyber goth. But yeah, I've been playing New World a lot lately, and that's the same thing. Like, your carry weight is usually like between like 250 to 300. But then there's like items that like weigh anywhere from like 6 to like 20. So like little things like that you craft with for like arcane stuff, like bits of a flower or something, like that's like 0.1. But and then you go to like you have storage sheds in multiple settlements that can hold up to like 1,000. So like I have like multiple sheds that are just filled with shit for crafting. Like, oh, this is the this is the settlement that I have to fast travel to get my crafting stuff for my smithing or for my light armor or my heavy armor or my arcane stuff, and it's just like fucking all over the place.
The Warriors for the PS2 was probably the best battle royale game from back in the day. Definitely fun. Highly recommend. Made by Rockstar.
Yeah.
Of course. And I don't think that was a traditional.
Rockstar just doesn't miss.
It's hard for them. Even Bully, when they talked about Bully being.
Yeah, I never played Bully. I had friends that played Bully, but I never played it.
The biggest problem that anybody had with it is that it was basically like a PG version of like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Because it was like a kid's game.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, like I said, I still play Vice City.
I don't have a problem. Let me rephrase. I don't necessarily have a problem with any game that's being produced. What I have a problem with is the industry taking those cues and trying to warp the whole industry into that singular game. That's my problem. I would play a battle royale game if I knew that wasn't going to be it. That wasn't going to be the last thing that these game producers are producing.
Yeah.
Like
there needs to be more than just the battle royale. Like having like one of the things that makes Halo one of the most beloved franchises is because it has a campaign. Like when you buy Halo, you're getting Halo, but they also have a multiplayer. Same with Call of Duty.
Alan says BR should be a game mode, not a whole game. Yes.
Agreed.
Because once it becomes a whole game, it's just like we were just talking about, like Fortnite, now the live service of Fortnite doesn't bring any new mechanic or attribute to the game. It's all garbage that you have to spend money on. It's all skins, and it's all the new hottest, dumbest horse shit so that your character looks like a banana with a top hat on while you're building instantly. Like, there's no new mechanics. It's not a new game. It's like, if I want, what I want out of a live service game is more content. I want to be able to play more. I don't want to keep playing the same thing, different colors.
Yeah.
I want to keep doing new shit. Like, if I'm going to spend money on it more than what I already have,
that's what DLCs
I want a new experience.
Are. That's how they started out. When when you had a DLC for a game, they were expanding the story. It was more like Phantom Liberty. They're adding more. Not only adding more story, but adding more to the map itself. They had more weapons and things.
I'm gonna bring it back to the trope. Nuka World. I'm gonna bring it back to the trope. It was the damn horse from Oblivion. Once they realized that you could buy a cosmetic horse and people were willing to spend $2 to $3 on it, that ruined everything.
I did buy that horse.
I didn't.
I did.
But that's the thing is
I justified it because I bought it from me.
For myself.
Yeah.
I can't fathom the direction of the industry when it basically becomes boiled down to live service being nothing but cosmetics.
And that's pretty much what it's become at this point, because everything they're favoring microtransactions rather than I bought the horse. I legit
we got a spit take on Alan.
Yeah, but yeah, like the industry now is just everything. Like how many microtransactions can we add to this game? How can we squeeze as much money that we're getting out of people when they're already paying $40, $60, sometimes $70 for a game? Oh, let's allow them to get it a day before everybody else. Let's do an early access thing for an extra $10. Let's throw. Oh, you want to get the pre-order.
When you start modeling your business around that, the business thus becomes parasitic. It is no longer about producing a product. It's about extracting as much revenue that you can out of your consumer base.
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest problem with what you actually just pointed out right there is when I was early in the games world, you used to have to know somebody to get early access. You had to be like a really good player, or you had to know somebody in the industry, and they would get you like a critics access or something along those lines, playable, or a debug access, and they would pay you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because it's become an industry standard to ship a game that isn't even fucking finished, and to ship it early, and you pay extra, you pay to be the debug artist.
Yeah.
You pay to be the guy who's going to report what's fucking wrong with the game.
Yep.
And that's criminal. It's fucking criminal.
It is 100%. I agree. Early access is so fucked up. You're not wrong.
Early access doesn't have to be fucked up. But the problem is because we as consumers have allowed ourselves to purchase products that are unfinished. Like, we've allowed it. That's a precedent that's set.
It is.
And
a lot of people are complaining about how, like, oh, this game's like the game just came out. Like, there's been so many times when I've said on a stream, like, well, this game just came out. There's gonna be bugs and everything. Like, when realistically there shouldn't be.
There shouldn't be.
And I catch myself saying things like that later, and I'm just like, I really shouldn't even have to say that.
Could you imagine if an artist back in the day, a musician,
puts out an album, not
that's,
even mixed and mastered.
Over the course of the next 10 years, I'm going to improve it. But if you buy it right now, you'll have access to it.
Yeah. You can still hear like the foundation of it. You can get the idea of the song, of the direction of the song, but it's going to sound like shit.
The only person who ever did something close to that, kind of, in a way, would be Childish Gambino, because he released that one album that was untitled for a long time. It had like a bunch of numbers, and all the songs on it had a bunch of numbers. But there was a reason behind that. The reason is because his father passed away, and he was in the middle of mourning, and the album just wasn't quite at the finishing point. Like, he just didn't put the little bit of polish. And then he waited 4 years and dropped a whole new album.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same album, but it was finished. It was a finished product. It was like, I can't deal with this right now because of what I got going on in my personal life, but I don't want to keep working on it in this state. So I'm going to put this out so that I don't mess with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm done going through what I'm going through, then I'll return to that. But could you imagine if I don't even know what else is out there. Like a movie. Could you imagine if they just released 20 minutes of a movie, and they're just like, don't worry, in a couple of months, we'll have the rest of it.
Or they release like a
what the fuck?
The CGI is still green screen and everything.
And the absolute just disgusting audacity of these companies that are just like, people are going to buy it. And then on top of it, they're like, well, we're going to get the revenue from the initial buy, so we're just going to be able to keep working on it. Like, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here and give me something worth my fucking dollars.
God, you're so sexy when you're angry.
Just aggravating.
No, and that aggravation is 100% valid. Like, that's one of the reasons, okay, this is going to be controversial, but I really want to, and then we're probably going to cut soon after this because we're already 2.5 hours deep. I would love to do a review, a 2024, fourth quarter 2024 review of Star Citizen. I know it's going to be
speaking of the fucking the
yeah. Well, this is that exact reason why I want to do a deep dive into it, and because I was a backer back in, I think around 2016 was when I had bought that ship, I think, and that was when the game was literally just a planet that you couldn't even land on, and a space station, and a handful of satellites that you can go repair. That was it. Now it's an entire solar system, and before there was only a handful of ships you could fly. Now there's a lot.
So allow me to add a bit of nuance to this tangent. I'm going to say that's a little different because when in a situation like there was another game that I liked called Satisfactory that they did that sort of similar thing where they released a couple free versions and then they released a couple of like you could back it if you wanted to versions, and that I don't mind. That's a little different. Star Citizen, I think everybody's beef is the fact that the absolute just grandiose time period that it's taken them to make any sort of headway. But at no point did they try and con you into the belief that like here's a finished product that's not really finished.
Yeah.
It was sort of like if you want to go ahead and give us some money and we're going to keep working on this and we're going to keep working on this and we're going to put something out. So same sort of deal with like No Man's Sky. Like when it first released, it did not live up to its promises.
Yeah.
But I think that they followed up with that the right way. They didn't leave people hanging. If you purchased it, you got all the content that they initially promised. It just took time.
Yeah, because I remember there was when that game first came out. I never got it. I never played it because like I was a diehard Star Citizen fan.
Right.
I still am. I still love the game, and it's gorgeous. And I didn't like No Man's Sky because, it was the conflict of interest with Star Citizen, but also it looked really cartoony.
Yes.
And I liked the concept of No Man's Sky, but I remember seeing. I just never got into it. I like the concept of it, but I never really did it. But one thing that I remember seeing, there someone did a YouTube video. They did like an A and B of like what was on the trailer at like E3 versus how the game looked at release, and it was like
night and day,
high detail and potato.
I said night and day.
He's here.
Night and day. Right. And that's, again, they followed through, but it just took them time. There's so many games that like, because it's become such a point in the industry that shipping a half-complete project, that we've actually run into the era where there's scam artists. What was that game that came out this year that was just a total sham? And the producers walked. The production company walked. It was like the day after or something like that. I think that's the name of it.
The day after.
And it was supposed to be like the next super survival shooter, and it was supposed to be like like all these different things, and you're going to have a full customization. It was going to be an awesome game, and it was like $70, and people dumped like a couple $1 million into it, and it released, and the next day, the producers claimed bankruptcy.
I guess you could say they claimed bankruptcy the day after.
The day after. And that wouldn't even have happened 10 years ago.
Days after?
Days after. I think it's like the day after or days after. The day. Oh yeah, that was called the day before.
The day before.
Was that 2023? Has time flown that fast? Jesus. I think that was like right around Christmas, if I remember correctly.
Servers for the day before, one of the most controversial and catastrophic games in recent memory, shut down just 45 days after the game launched in early access. Publisher Maitana had signaled the end of the day before with developer Fnastic. See, I've never even heard of Fnastic. The game's servers remained online until January 22nd of 2024. So yeah, it was a Christmas release, and they shut down the servers 45 days later. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Following its release, a former employee of Fnastic stated that the game was never intended to be a massive multiplayer online game.
Whatever. Lies. And it's just like Concord. Concord is probably one of the worst, like, crashes.
I've never even heard of it, to be honest, but
It released,
it
and
looks like shit.
It released, and 2 weeks later they took the servers down, and they refunded everybody. Good on Sony for that one, but in all reality, it's like, why would you even? How did that get past? Like, with this day and age of everybody having early access, it's early access. Like, it didn't break like 20 players. Like, how did that get greenlit? Like, who went like, oh yeah, this is gonna work?
I think what happens is a production company for a video game, say it's like Square Enix or Activision or whoever, they say, hey, we got this new game that we're gonna put out, and here's a trailer, and here's a release date, and they put out this trailer, they put out this release date, they put out this information on it. Now they have these. Now it's like, okay, crunch time. We got to get this done. And I get it. Like, during game development, you get hiccups, you get things that
Sure,
can impede on production. But and I think what needs to happen is stop putting out trailers. Just keep your cards close to the chest. And finish the product, and then release it. That way, you're not
overhyping.
And then setting up these expectations and letting people down.
You got to find that fine balance between getting the people just hyped enough without overpromising.
Yeah.
And that way,
that's not just for video games, but that can be for film, for music, for anything.
Because I mean, again, like, you played that for an hour and a half, and are you hooked? Or like you have at least
Space Marine 2?
Yeah, you have a desire.
Yeah, I want to play more. I want to get into it. I want to finish all the missions. I want to read more of that core book that you let me borrow. I want to get a helmet. I want to get an army. Show her the Cybercraft helmets.
Oh, I'm not going to show her something that costs $235. She'll kill me.
No, it was $335.
$335.
Worse or better?
Listen. You find an STL file, and I'll print it.
Okay.
And that way, yeah.
Twist my arm.
Twist.
Uncle. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I really want to just dive into this. Like, put me in a suit.
I'm telling you, man.
Fucking give me a third lung. I'm in.
I mean, dude, once you start finding out, like, Geller fields, what it takes to actually refuel a starship, and they're actually called battle barges, but
that's hot.
Battle barge. Yeah, dude. Like, there's so much. There's just so and it's so crazy because it's like every detail in this lore has been thought about. It's been around for 30 some odd years. But at the exact same time, there's like very little fumbling. There's very little, like, it all blends together very, very well.
Need to make people aware of the product for sure. Yeah, like
yeah.
Let people be aware of the product and let the hype speak for itself. Like, people are gonna say something like
Streamlabs, shut up.
Yeah, Streamlabs is a idiot. Space Marine helmet wearable remix Edric. Steve's STL files. Oh wait, all right. Send that to us on Discord.
Yes, please. I'll have that. Hopefully I'll have it printed out by like next week, if not by 2 weeks.
But yeah, make people aware of the product. Like, if rather than I think the only thing that CD Projekt Red should have done is they had that initial trailer, the one where it's like the woman with the arm swords and the bullet bouncing off, like breaking on her cheek, like that generated enough hype. Yeah. When it was first released, and people are saying, "Hey, this is what we're working on. Here's a quick teaser trailer." Boom, let that simmer. Don't release anything else. And then the next trailer that they should have released, the only other thing that they should have released was the one where V and Jackie, Jackie gets shot in the car, and then he goes to like wash his hands, and he gets flashbacks of it, and then the guy's like, "We didn't need all this cocksucking attention," and then like wake the fuck up, samurai, and then like that trailer alone, because it looked phenomenal, and Keanu Reeves was there, and then that don't release anything else other than that. Finish the game, and then I think it would have been fine.
I feel like there was supposed to be so much more. And I feel like when it comes to Cyberpunk, if you play it and you put in the amount of hours that I did into that silly ass game, you will come across things and you're like, oh, there's loose ends. There's storylines that are like loose ends. Now, granted, this is pre 2.0 release, so a lot of that stuff got tied up.
Yeah.
But there's just like empty space that you can obviously tell that they were originally putting something there, and then
I noticed that too pre 2.0.
Yeah,
and a lot of it was it's a different campaign style.
I feel like they had to change a lot of the story on the fly.
Yeah,
I think there was like a big part that, for whatever reason, whether it was controversial or what, they had to take it out.
Everything in that game, literally, like once you meet Hanako at Embers, like that's the end game. Like that's the point of no return. In exchange for that link, y'all need to link me a good beginner 3D printer, so I want to get into it.
I'll send you the one that I got.
That's the man you want to talk to.
I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I know it was under $200.
Alan, if you're in our Discord, which
I don't have my phone.
I think you are. Well, not right now, but like whenever. Just message us on Discord, and we'll talk shop. But what else? You linked in the general admissions one. All right, cool. But yeah, I feel like a lot of that story or a lot of the game was just like, because it's not your typical open world where like, okay, you do this one thing and then everything's over. Like, because it gives you the chance to play it as an open world, but then like once you get to, because a lot of games, like there's a lot of open world games I feel like are open ended as far as like story.
No, that's not it. Did you ever play to the end of Liberty?
I still haven't played Phantom Liberty yet. I gotta get that. That one costs money. Which, by the way, everybody,
Phantom Liberty has the best ending of the whole series.
Mm.
If you play it the right way, because there's like, I want to say there's 5 original endings, and then Phantom Liberty has an additional like 3 or 4.
See, I got the ending in one of the did you already play all like the 5 endings?
No.
Of the original?
No, I played 3 of the original, and I haven't finished Phantom Liberty.
Okay. Yeah, I did one. I got one ending on Cyberpunk. I gotta see how I can get. I gotta get back into it because it's so fun. That game is actually one of the first ones where I feel like I can play it again.
I'm terrified of going back to that because it's always like, it's like every time I pick up the controller and load in the game, as soon as I press start, I'm like, oh, another 100 hours already went by? Jesus.
Yeah, it do be like that sometimes.
Not any key, but God damn it, I just looked it up and just passed it.
You don't have to do it right now.
Not Elegoo. Not Elegoo. Not
Frozen. Yeah, Cyberpunk is one of those games where like I can replay it.
I know, I just went past it, but I know what it is, and I'm going to look it up now.
Like Star Wars Old Republic, I can replay that game over and even though it is an MMO, like there is a main storyline, like a class storyline, depending on what class you choose. Like if you choose to be a Sith warrior or a Sith Inquisitor or a bounty hunter or an Imperial agent, and then that's the Sith Empire side, and then the Republic is Jedi Knight, Jedi Consular, Smuggler, and Trooper. But then like each of those stories, you can be like dark side or light side, or somewhere in the middle, and like different actions have different outcomes, like every other EA game. Shooby-doo-boo, ba ricky-tucky pow.
Such a thing. Metroidvania.
I was replaying Hollow Knight and Blasphemous.
I just deleted one. I think might have been Blasphemous, actually. Coming at you, Alan. Nah. Click on that ridiculous link. I think it blocked me.
Yeah, I think it'll. We'll get it to you, Alan. But Star Wars: Old Republic, Cyberpunk, Vice City is another story that I can play over and over.
Oh yeah.
But that's just because I might be biased because I'm a slut for nostalgia and anything 80s.
Why doesn't it have?
Check both screens. Link where? Why do you have us up on Twitch and YouTube?
It blocked me from sharing that link. Yeah. Where? This thing? Oh, it looks different. Copy link. That's so much better. Click that.
Way better.
That's the one I use.
There you go. Daniel's son, that's the one. Yes, baby.
Click this for a good time. Yeah, that printer is a pretty solid printer.
Totally not a virus. Trust me, I'm a dolphin.
Yeah, I had a lot of prints. You just got to calibrate it. It's once you buy it, it's actually got all the basic stuff in there. It tells you how to calibrate it and whatnot. Two things that you're going to need when you pick that up are obviously a bottle of 3D resin. Make sure that you match it to that printer, and like a gallon's worth of rubbing alcohol. Also, make sure that wherever you print in a very well ventilated area. Because, well, it doesn't just stink; it'll give you nasty headaches because it off gases a lot of toxic crap.
Worth it.
I believe that one comes with an exhaust tube. So if you get like a little thing, you can kind of put it out your window, and it'll actually vent most of the stuff out the window.
There you go. So yeah, we might have some 3D printed Warhammer Space Marine helmet wearable remix. Or is Erdrick a character, or is it like?
That's probably the artist.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we're at 3 hours.
Yeah, let's call it.
Thanks for hanging out with us, Alan. Appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely.
Always.
Victoria, thank you for stopping by as well as Tom. I'm pretty sure that was Tom, the other name that came up in chat.
Tom. Thanks everybody for stopping out.
And if anybody who is watching has made it this far, again, if you want to support us directly, links below. We got merch. We got a tip jar. Check it out. And then also, if you want access to our Discord, go to our Instagram at Generally Admitting, where we will try to be a little bit more active on that. I gotta try. And
It's a great place to put your freshly painted miniatures.
yeah, we should So we're gonna try to be more active on that.
Right.
And again, so we do this full time at this point now. This is our full time job. So the tie-dye hoodie is kind of sick, actually.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, man. It probably look really good on you.
As Palpatine would say, do it.
Why is Palpatine Mexican?
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Could you imagine, like, good, Anakin, good.
Good.
Kill him.
Kill him.
Kill him now.
Kill him.
And he's still in, like, that very Ian McDermott thing. And Anakin's like, I shouldn't. And he's like, do it.
Do it. Do it.
Do it.
No, Senator Padratine. On that note, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks again, everybody. Check out all our links, like, subscribe, and all that fun